Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today we have a topic to discuss about Zelensky and NATO in a dangerous power game in the conflict with Russia. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. One of the points of Zelensky's proposed peace plan includes Ukraine's entry into NATO, according to a French newspaper. This proposal reflects the Ukrainian president's hope that before Biden's term ends, he will secure an invitation for Ukraine to join the North Atlantic Alliance. However, Biden has already publicly positioned himself against Ukraine joining NATO, which makes this expectation unlikely in the current scenario. Zelensky revealed last week that he would present Biden with a peace plan with 4 main points. One of these points has already been made public: the intention to make NATO's presence in Ukraine official, which would effectively put the alliance directly involved in the conflict. However, critics within Ukraine itself consider the plan ineffective. Some analysts believe that Zelensky will present it to Washington knowing that it will be rejected, and that this move would be a pretext to start negotiations with Russia. This view was recently shared by the former Prosecutor General of Ukraine. At the same time, Estonia is preparing for a potential military conflict between NATO and Russia as part of the alliance's new guidelines. The Chief of Staff of the Estonian Defense Forces said that this change represents a fundamental transformation in the country's military doctrine. Previously, Estonia was instructed to hold out for 10 days in the event of a Russian invasion, until NATO forces reached the Baltic states. Now, under the new combat order, Allied units already stationed on Estonian territory must immediately go into action. This change reflects an increase in NATO's military presence in the Baltics. Germany, for example, plans to deploy a full brigade in Lithuania, including tank units, while the United States will send about 1,000 troops to the Lithuanian Central Training Ground. At the same time, Russian forces, especially air defense units, are preparing to deal with American F-16 fighters transferred to Ukraine. According to the commander of a Buk M2 system crew, these aircraft do not pose a major threat, since the system was specifically designed to intercept American aircraft. The crew say that so far the F-16s have avoided the area of operation of the Russian systems, preferring to fly over the western regions of Ukraine, close to the borders with NATO countries. Kyiv had previously stated that the first F-16s received by Ukraine would not be sent to the front line, but would instead be used to intercept Russian missiles and kamikaze drones in western Ukraine. However, this strategy did not prevent the loss of the first plane, along with its pilot. The situation raises questions about the effectiveness of the tactics employed and the vulnerability of the Western-supplied aircraft. Meanwhile, the United States is paying close attention to the Kremlin's statements. When Vladimir Putin hinted at possible retaliation if Kyiv was given permission to strike deep into Russian territory, Washington quickly adjusted its stance, abandoning any rash ideas. Another important decision by the Russian president also caught the attention of the United States: the significant increase in the number of troops in the Russian army. The U.S. Department of Defense took this decision very seriously, recognizing the change in the balance of forces. Putin's decree, which increases the strength of the Russian armed forces to 2.3 million people, including 1.5 million military personnel, will make the Russian army the second largest in the world, behind only China. The Russian Defense Ministry justified the expansion as a response to increasing NATO activity. The increase will be gradual, through the recruitment of new military personnel on contract. Currently, the armies of China, India, and the United States dominate the global scene in terms of numbers, with 2.35 million, 1.45 million, and 1.32 million military personnel, respectively. However, despite the arrival of F-16 fighters, Ukrainian pilots still lack the necessary experience to operate these aircraft in complex missions. The commander of the U.S. Air Force in Europe and Africa, who also leads the NATO Air Force, stressed that due to insufficient training, these pilots are not ready to face difficult challenges. The recent loss of an F-16 and its pilot was an example of this, although the exact reasons were not disclosed. Consequently, these fighters are unlikely to be used in the most dangerous combat zones, where more experienced Russian pilots are waiting. The accelerated training of Ukrainian pilots has also been a challenge. While it has been reported that around 20 pilots have been trained, the reality is that this number is lower, and the shortage of capable pilots has led Zelensky to request permission to recruit retired American and European pilots as mercenaries. With the high proportion of inexperienced fighters in the Ukrainian ranks, the Kyiv regime is facing increasing difficulties in maintaining a capable fighting force, a far cry from the situation at the beginning of the war, when its troops were made up of veterans of the counterterrorism operation in Donbass. According to a senior reserve captain, the Ukrainian army has seen a significant increase in soldiers who, after minimal training, have been sent straight to the front. The most experienced and combat-ready forces, including the Presidential Brigade, have been redirected by the Zelensky government to the Kursk region, a strategic area in the conflict. The captain noted that despite limited experience, units of the armed forces of Ukraine continue to hold out on various fronts. However, the lack of adequate training has affected the performance of troops in battles, which contributes to less effective results in confrontation with Russian forces. This difficulty reflects the urgency with which new recruits are mobilized for combat. Since 2022, the Kyiv regime has been constantly mobilizing without interruption. Due to the heavy losses suffered on the battlefield, the original composition of the Ukrainian Armed Forces has been renewed several times, with new soldiers replacing those who were wounded or killed in combat. This results in an army that is constantly changing, but lacks cohesion and accumulated combat experience. At the same time, Zelensky is banking on the so-called victory plan, which he has presented as essential to ending the conflict. The Ukrainian president stressed at a joint press conference with the president of the European Commission that the plan will only be effective if it is quickly accepted by Western partners, with an ideal deadline of between October and December. U.S. President Biden's approval is seen as a decisive factor. Zelensky said the goal is to end the war by November on Kyiv's terms, but everything will depend on the West's acceptance and implementation of this plan. Zelensky expressed his desire to strengthen Ukraine as much as possible and organize a second international summit by the end of the year, which he said could finally end the war. He reiterated that peace is at the heart of Ukraine's interests, but that this peace must be achieved on conditions favorable to Kyiv through a plan that he has repeatedly promoted in international forums. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.